Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Gun Room. Today we're going to be doing a disassembly video on the Marlin Model 60, the 22LR. So let's get started. Alright guys, we got the Marlin Model 60. This is the stainless steel version. Now before we take the rifle apart, we need to make sure that the firearm is indeed unloaded. And the Marlin Model 60 is a tube-fed semi-auto. So first things first, before we even bother pulling the bolt back, you want to make sure that your magazine tube is taken out. All the rounds are stored here in this tube, and if you have any rounds in here, even if there isn't anything chambered, the moment you pull your bolt back, you're end up cycling rounds. That's why you want to make sure you pull your tube out. So now that we have our tube out, we can visually check to make sure that there are no rounds chambered, which there is not. And now that we have the firearm safety checked, we can begin the disassembly. Now that we have the firearm safety checked, our first order of business is to remove the front and rear takedown screws. Take a standard Phillips screwdriver and remove them. This first screw is pretty short, and the second one is located right behind the trigger group. There's 3 screws here, at least on my rifle there are. The rear one goes through the stock and attaches to your receiver. The front one actually screws into your stock. So when we remove the stock, your whole trigger guard will actually come off with the stock. So if you want to remove this, you'll have to take that screw out as well. But just to take the stock off from the barrel receiver, all you got to do is remove this rear screw. And this screw is a little bit longer. And as soon as you got that out, all you do is lift your barrel up and it'll come right out. And there's your stock. And if you look up here, that right there is the screw we just loosened. And that screw right there is actually that one right there. So like I said, if you want to remove this, it's a really, really short screw. It just screws right into the stock there. Alright guys, now that we have our action out of the stock, the next step, if you flip the gun over, is this little post right here. It's called the assembly post. It's just a piece of plastic. It'll just push right out. Once you remove this whole portion will come out. Now when you're taking this out and you're putting it back in, they have this little pin right here. Notice the ears on the end of it. When you go to put it back, you're going to push it up and slide it in. It rests on top of those ears. So when you're taking it out and you're putting it back in, you just want to make sure you take note of that. For the purpose of this video, we will not be taking this assembly apart. This houses your hammer, your buffer, your bolt release, your feed ramp. There's just no need to really take this apart. It's a real hassle when you do. When you're cleaning this, I use just wire brushes and some Q-tips. Get some oil in there, some WD-40, whatever you use. Just clean it up as best as you can, but there really is no need to take this apart. It's more of a hassle than, well, it's worth it. When you go to clean it and you get it all clean, you put it back together, the first round you do, this is all going to be dirty once you start it again. So there's really no point in cleaning. There's no point in taking it apart. Just clean it as best you can. Alright, now the next step is to remove your charging handle. And for this, you're going to need to be able to move your bolt back. Now that you've taken this assembly out, this bolt can ride out. That's what you need to do. And you can do it with your hand or a screwdriver or whatever is easy for you, is to push the bolt back a ways and it'll actually come out. This is all under spring tension, so you want to make sure you have your safety goggles on or what have you. But anyway, you'll pull this down a little bit once you have it under spring tension, and this will actually pull right out. Your charging handle will pull right out. It's just got that little slot there that's holding it in against the other side of the frame there. So once you get your charging handle out, release your bolt, you lift it back up. As you see here, this entire thing is your bolt, and right back here is your recoil spring and your recoil spring guide. And this is all in spring tension. The spring actually goes through part of the bolt. So what you want to do is to pull it back, and I found that if you push on this back part, it'll actually help quite a bit. If you pull it back, push on that back part, it'll start to lift out. You want to be very careful when you're doing this, not only because of it's under spring tension, but you don't want to damage your spring. If you do, you'll have to replace it, and it's just another hassle. So push it back, tilt it forward, and lift it out as you release slowly. And when you come up, it'll look like this. You want to hold on to your bolt, cover that spring if you can. Once you do, slowly release it out, and most of the time it'll come out with it. So now you have your bolt, and now you can just pull this out. This is your spring, and if you pull the spring off, this is your spring, recoil spring guide. So now you have your spring, your recoil spring guide. Both of those rest right in there. There's a little divot in there, a little hole where this actually rests into, like such. But we'll see that when we put it back together. But anyway, that's how you take it apart. Alright guys, we got our bolt here. I just wanted to mention that you have your firing pin down here in the center. It'll actually move back and forth just a little bit. That's normal. It's held in with a pin. And then you also have your extractors on the front here. I do not recommend taking those apart, just for your general purpose cleaning. The only reason you need to take them apart, if you feel qualified enough to take them apart, would be to replace them, and I would recommend a qualified gunsmith for that if you are new to the firearm industry. So with that, all that's left really for the gun is to clean it properly. I do recommend that you clean your magazine tube as well as your chamber. You wouldn't think that you'd have that many problems with it, but if anything gets in this tube, it can actually prevent the rounds from feeding in it. And you can remove your magazine tube, and there'll actually be rounds jammed in there, even if you hit it. Sometimes, you know, just safety hazard. Just want to make sure that's good and clean, because you can actually accidentally leave rounds in there, and the last thing you want to do is go to pull your bolt back and accidentally cycle them. I don't know. That's what I'm going with. So. But anyway, if you want to remove your front and rear sights, they're on dovetails. There's really no need for that as well, especially for just a simple takedown, for all intents and cleaning purposes. So with that, we're going to just put the gun right back together. All right, the gun's taken apart. We're going to put it back together. It's just the reverse order, but there are a few things you want to note that'll help with the ease of putting the gun back together. First things first, like I said, that little hole there is where your recoil spring guide goes. This little guy right here. Just a little lip there. So you're going to put your recoil spring guide through your recoil spring. That's going to go right in that little hole there. And then when you grab your bolt, on the back side of your bolt there's going to be a hole right there. You're actually going to, and the bolt goes like this, you're going to put the recoil spring back in through that hole. It'll go right about there without any compression. And put this back in. Like I said, you're going to want to be careful, otherwise you'll damage your recoil spring. Just slowly start to compress it as straight as you can. And once you get as far as you can, you slowly start to bring it down. And you'll bring it down into the receiver. And you can let go once it's up against the side, as long as you keep tension on it. And with that, you'll have your spring under tension, so you'll need to keep that in mind. But before you push it up against the top here, you want to make sure you grab your charging handle. And you'll see there's a little notch right here. I'll bring it up a little bit for you. Right there, that little notch, that's where your charging handle goes. And the flat part of your charging handle is going to be on the down side. So when you go to put that back in, it's going to drop it straight back down. Hold it with one hand. Make sure that flat part is against the flat side of your bolt and push it up. And there you go. Your charging handle will be locked in place. Alright, now that we got our bolt and our charging handle back in place, we're going to put our bottom assembly back in. Like I mentioned before, these little ears, they're going to go right above that pin there, just like that. You're going to lift it right back up, and it'll slide right into place. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that this hole lines up. You're going to grab your assembly post, that little piece of plastic, and the head of the piece of plastic is going to go in from the left side. So once that's lined up, you're just going to push it right through, completely through, like such, and you've already got it back together. Okay, we've got the gun reassembled, and now we're going to put it right back in the stock. What you do is match it up, and I did leave the screw in the trigger guard, so that screw is already in place. But your rear takedown screw, I do have the front takedown screw right here. Put that back in. You want to hold the gun against the stock as you tighten these screws, and I do recommend tightening the screws part way, both of them, before you actually tighten them all the way. And then once you get all these screws back together, we'll put our magazine tube back in the gun. Just perform a quick function test. Everything seems to be working pretty good. Check the safety. There we go. And we're good to go. You can use, they make 22 LR dummy rounds that you can use. Those are actually pretty good. They cycle pretty well. All it is a rubberized bullet. I don't have any of them right now to show you. But you can put those in there and they feed just like a regular 22. And you can actually pull the trigger and the firing pin will indent the rubberized part of that bullet, or the casing, and it won't damage the firing pin at all. So those are an option. I do not recommend using live ammo to check or to function test, I'm sorry, your firearm. Okay guys, that was the Marlin Model 60 disassembly video. If you found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave it in the comment section below. I can help you out as best I can. And if you'd like to see more videos of me take apart these guns and later do reviews on them, hit the subscribe button now. So with that, we're going to leave, and I just want to say thanks for watching the first episode of The Gun Room. I'll catch you guys next time. Marlin Model 60 takedown video.